Excellent. Welcome to the Standard Podcast team. We are here to raise the bar, rebuild the culture, and call out the lies or misconceptions that nobody else will. This isn't motivation. This is a movement. And I'm Thomas Rowe, joined by my host, Errol Sarles. And today we're sitting down with Britt Hunter in the house, leadership speaker, youth development strategist, and creator of Your Own Adventure leadership program. Britt's journey is one of transformation and purpose. Once the number one recruit in the country, she played at Duke and UConn before losing the game, but finding the lesson. From here, she built a career spanning education as a character school administrator, business with her Vanderbilt MBA, and a Microsoft leadership role. And now youth development, helping the next generation figure out who they are, what they stand for, and how to take ownership of their choices. Through her own Your Adventure program, Britt blends storytelling, strategy, and practical tools to develop resilient leaders who move with purpose. She serves student and young leaders 14 to 24, schools, universities, and organizations worldwide, trusted by Northwestern University, Vandy, Microsoft, Jacksonville Jaguars, and so much more, and she's going to get into that. Britt's mission is clear: help young people build confidence, character, and real-world leadership skills that stick. Her approach focuses on ownership of choices, growth, and the adventure that is building the authentic life. We're diving into the truth behind what it really takes to build identity, discipline, and legacy in sports and in life, on and off the court. Let's get into it. Britt, you're such a rock star. Aaron and I are super excited about having you here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Excellent. Let's start here. You're a leadership speaker and youth development strategist who helps young people figure out who they are, what they stand for, and how to take the ownership of their choices. What does raising the standard mean to you in the work you're doing for the next generation?
Yeah, raising the standard honestly comes down to just holding young adults accountable. So often I see adults trying to be friends with kids, and it's admirable, but it's not helpful.
Right.
Young adults, kids all around are looking for structure. And I think when adults kind of get in their own feelings and are more interested in being liked instead of being respected, they don't set their kids up for success. And then you try to figure out, they can't figure out why their kids aren't likable, why their kids are struggling with independence, why their kids aren't coachable. It's like, because you've been wanting so badly to be their friend, their peer, that you haven't set them up for reality, which is the real world. When I was a teacher for 4 years, I came in with my UConn basketball mindset, which is figure it out. We're going hard all the time. I'm holding you accountable or raising the bar. And every time midway through the year, I'd have parents calling me at night saying, Miss Hunter, Nick's not doing his homework. I need your help. They put me on the phone, and it's real quick and simple. Nick, you got some choices here. You could do it or not do it.
Right.
You know what my consequences are, but also what's going on. So you're going to get the consequences. I'm going to figure out what's going on. But, do you need a different plan? Do you need something different? But I'm holding the line. And that happens so frequently because parents had struggled for so long with holding the line. They didn't want to deal with backlash. They didn't want to deal with difficult conversations. They got tired of repeating themselves. And it's like, that's your job.
Yeah.
That's the assignment, It doesn't end. But what's at the end of that rainbow is just so much more important than how you feel right now. And I really try to empower students to do their part so that parents can do their part.
Agreed. That's so important because it's all about the journey, not the destination. What is the biggest lie you feel the culture or society has sold young people or athletes about success, leadership, and what it means to own your adventure?
I think there's an assumption that as you get older, these things will come about naturally.
Right.
Like, leadership happens when I turn 30. Leadership happens when I get the first job. Leadership happens when someone gives me the title. No, actually, it doesn't. If that were the case, we wouldn't see so many adults lacking those skills.
Agreed.
High school and college is where kids need to actually practice leadership. It's where they need to practice putting themselves out there. That is one of the main things that I talk about when I go to a school is in order to be exceptional, you have to be the exception.
Awesome.
You have to do the things that might embarrass your peers. Sitting in the front row, introducing yourself to the professor week one, going to class even when you're tired, communicating to the professor that you're not going to be there, having a solution for when you're about to drop the ball, like over communicating, managing across, managing up. You have to do that in a safe space. And high school and college is the best space because once you graduate, the guardrails are off. Right? There's only so much time. There's only so much time somebody's going to work with you and say, hey, you dropped the ball. Next time, email me or email your peer and email all these people so that we know. They're going to do that once, maybe twice.
Right.
But it should be automatic because you should be doing that when you have a support system to mess it up. And I just want to encourage adults to really hold kids to the fire because they're capable of so much more. They rise to the expectations you set always.
Always. Agreed. You were the number one recruit in the country in women's basketball. You played at Duke and UConn, and then you say you, quote, lost the game but found the lesson, end quote. What was that transition like, and how did it shape your mission to help others?
The transition was rough. It lasted well beyond college. Going from the number one player in the country to blowing my knee out, third game of my freshman year, did a number on my mind. Initially, I didn't even think I was that hurt. I was rushed back. I welcomed being rushed back, right? I wanted to contribute. I wanted to be counted on. That athlete mindset is just go, 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 go. And better decisions needed to be made. Long story short, I blew my knee out third game of the season, but what happened at the end of the season changed my life. Came out of my probably third or fourth surgery at the end of my freshman year. And they pretty much told me, you're going to have an osteotomy or you won't be able to walk, let alone play basketball. And an osteotomy, for those who don't know, is when they put a plate in your thigh and shift your weight over from one side to the other so that my damaged side of the knee wouldn't take the pressure in just the other side.
Oh.
And it was at that age that I had to grow up. Right. So my mother forced me to go to Duke. I was 17 at the time. I didn't have the chance to make a decision for myself, something I want parents to stop doing. Don't do that. Don't make decisions for your kids. Your time is up at 17. Quite frankly, if they're going to college, that's it. Hands off. Leave them alone. They have to live with that choice. So I had a parent make decisions for me and put me in a school I didn't really want to be at. I wanted to be at UConn. Then I had adults, coaches, and doctors who I just trust. You should trust these people to make decisions for me to come back. And by the time everything came to a head, I had an aha moment, which was like, man, turns out adults are just people that are older than me.
Right.
But it doesn't make them more knowledgeable than me. It doesn't mean that they will do the right thing all the time. It doesn't mean that they're to be trusted all the time. And I had to make a decision. And so I didn't ask anyone's permission. I called Gino myself and said, look, I got one leg. I need you to take me. I don't know if I can play basketball, but where I've been trying to be this whole time. And I'd like to come. And he took me, knowing that I probably wouldn't be able to play basketball. And so the lesson for me, that first lesson was I had to have some ownership. I had to have some agency.
Right.
For years, I blamed the coaching staff at Duke and the doctors at Duke and blamed my mom for putting me in that situation. But at the end of the day, what I did at 18, I wish I had done at 17 and put my foot down. And from that moment on, honestly, it's up to me. If anything doesn't go well, it's on me. And when you take that ownership and responsibility, you move differently.
That has got to be one of the hardest lessons we try to teach. And that is where you are today is a direct reflection of the choices that you've made. It's not anybody else's issue or problem. And I'm so glad you touched on that. Now we're going to get into segment 2, identity and legacy. And I'm going to kick it over to Erin. Erin, it's all yours. Take it away.
Awesome, Britt. So glad to have you here. Thank you for joining us. So I want to know, who is Britt beyond all the accolades Thomas has shared? We want to know who you are as a human being.
Yeah, I like to say I'm a storyteller. Someone asked me, what my superpower was. And they said it was storytelling. And I said, storytelling is what I love doing. I think my superpower is extracting greatness from people who don't see it in themselves. I am somebody who, if you tell me I can do something, I will go try it. And it has paid dividends. And so I'm just a curious person. I tell everybody who will listen, I've been a student athlete at the highest level. I coached at a high level, coached at Temple, worked in education for 7 years in Harlem, one of the most challenging public school districts in the country. Did that successfully, got an MBA, that being my third degree, worked at Microsoft as a leader. And by the time I'm 50, after my speaking career, I plan on being a pastry chef, right?
Ooh,
so
I like that.
I'm an explorer. Once you see enough, once you get to the lowest point that I feel like I've been at, you really can't tell me I can't do something. It's very hard for you to convince me that I can't do something. I know that it's me versus me. And I would say I'm a storyteller. I'm a curious human, and I just want to extract greatness from other people.
Oh, I love that so much. That is so awesome. You're the first person that says they wanted to be a pastry chef after all this is over. So good luck. God bless you. I love to bake and cook, but I'm like in mass quantities. I'm like, okay, I still enjoy this after all of that. So that's awesome. So I want to know, you have a tagline. It's always rooting for the next generation. After being the number one recruit and navigating your own journey through sports, education, and business, what does legacy beyond personal achievement mean to you?
Yeah. I compare it to the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? When I was younger, grew up poor. A lot of people did. A lot of people I meet, especially who are in athletics or the military, grew up poor and used military or athletics as a vehicle to get out of that. And so at the very bottom, I just wanted money, but not even money. When I first got my first job, the only thing I really wanted was to be able to afford toiletries, an endless amount of toiletries. Anyone who's grown up without can attest to, you get the basics when you go to a grocery store. You don't get the stuff you want, you get the stuff you need. And growing up, especially as a young woman, we need a lot more products and we just didn't have them. And so getting toiletries was like my baseline. And so then after that, it was like, okay, once I experienced that after my first job, got paid $50,000, I was able to just go to CVS and splurge $250 and get whatever I wanted. And that felt great. The next level then became, okay, now I want to come from the bottom and be respected in my role. And I was able to do that through education. My last year of teaching, I was able to get 100% of my students across the New York State ELA and math finish line. And I had no teaching degree. So that was all learning and adapting and doing what I needed to do to get my students across the finish line. So then when I checked that box off, it became, I kind of want more credibility. And that's where the MBA came in. That's where working at Microsoft came at. And then once I got all those things, I was kind of like, all right, I've been at the bottom, I've been at the top. What else is there? And Maslow's hierarchy of need will tell you it's self-actualization. That's all it is. It's how do I get to the best version of myself? And that best version of myself is pouring in other people. It's getting something great out of other people and getting them to see it, getting them across the finish line. And that gives me all the energy that I need. So that's what it is. I've hit all the rungs, done all the things, and I'm like, what else is there to do? I guess help someone else out, because hundreds of people helped me and they did it selflessly. And I'm sure I made them proud, and I'd like to help other people do the same.
That's awesome. I love that. That's a powerful benchmark too. It's funny how we create that in our mind, kind of what's our next thing. And then it's like, oh, now what? And so, yes, and toiletries, I feel here as a fellow woman, it's like, oh my God, the Sephora trips are like, oh my God, get the hell out of here. It's like,
get out. You could leave.
The bills racking up.
You could spend thousands of dollars and it's never enough.
It's never enough. No, I was just laughing with a girlfriend yesterday. She was teaching me about hair washing, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm going to go spend thousands of dollars on hair washing shit now. So, like, oh my God, no more, Erin, cut yourself off. So with that, you created own your own adventure. So you help young people build confidence, character, and leadership skills that stick. What separates young people who take ownership of their choices from those who drift through life waiting for someone else to direct them?
Yeah, the biggest thing I would say is probably courage and humility. Like, it's not easy. It's not easy to do something that goes against what everyone else is doing. If all of your peers are making the same decisions and you decide, I want to go against the grain, it's hard. I mean, I just saw it last week. I was doing a presentation at a high school in Columbus, and that's my hometown. And I had an audience of about 150 freshmen. And I'm walking them through this workshop. And at the beginning, it was a little loosey-goosey. I had to put the hammer down a few times. But as they got caught up into my story, you started to see there was two boys in particular. And they were both just chatting. And I had addressed it a couple times, but like the third and fourth time, I'm done with it. I got to move on. I'm not going to sacrifice the whole group for these two. But after a while, one of them stopped engaging with the other one. And I noticed it and I called it out, because it's those small things that are not the norm for them. It's hard to look your friend in the eye and say, I'm not doing this with you anymore. Or I don't know if we should be friends anymore. Or I'm going this way, I need you to come this way, or that's it. It's really hard to do that. Adults don't even know how to do that. But as a young person, you got to do that now. Your friend group will derail you real quick, and then you'll be blaming them, but it's really on you. And so just watching kids make decisions in the moment of like, I actually want to lock in here because I like what's happening and I see it and I want to be different starting today. Those small changes are the things that turn into other things. And that's what I encourage. Make a small change. You're not going to be a brand new person tomorrow, but every day that you wake up, make a different choice. If you get talked to 8 times in class, tomorrow get talked to 7. Next week, make it 5. Next month, make it 1 or 2. Don't be perfect. That's not the expectation. The expectation is to grow. So one is, I would say, courage to do something that their peers probably wouldn't encourage them to do or even be open to them doing. And the second thing is humility. Kids get humbled quite a bit. And sometimes it can be frustrating to feel like you're constantly being told what to do. But adults struggle with the same thing. There's a reason you're being told what to do, right? Not all of it is always right, but the majority of it is. And if you don't have the humility to put your ego to the side to say, maybe I'm wrong here, maybe I should look at this different, it's going to be hard. I give the students a framework. It's called the pivot framework, and it's super simple. You take a story that you've been sharing, because this is what I did at Duke, right? I shared the story about how, I was playing and then I got hurt and all these doctors and adults rushed me back. That's the version story. That's one version of the story I've been telling. I told for like 10, 15 years of my life. And then as I dug deeper and started working with youth, I realized there's actually a second version of that story that I didn't own. And that second version is, when I actually got to campus, I had a new talent. And it wasn't dunking and it wasn't playing ball really well, although I could do both very well. It was being late. I was late everywhere. I was like the national champion of being late. And I didn't know why it was happening. And I couldn't figure it out. I also didn't ask for help. I just kept being late. And that tardiness, that reputation that I was building caused a rift between me and the adults. And that broke down trust. And so when it was time for me to come back, they didn't consult with me. They told me, because we don't have a relationship anymore. And when my knee was hurting the first time, I didn't say anything because we didn't have that relationship. So the second version that I share is that I actually played a role in that. I eroded trust, which made it hard for them to work with me. And that's as an 18-year-old, 17-year-old, you're not really like all the way there all the time. I know I for sure was not. It came across that I was a very mature adult, but I just didn't have it all the way together. And so I had to have the humility to say, I messed this up. And I had to pivot. I had to pause, think about the story with just facts, then tell the story with the impact, how it bothered me. Talk about the values that I was eroding. I was eroding my reputation. That was very important to me. And I eroded it really quickly. The ownership, I had to own the actual thing, the whole thing, own my part. And T, I had to have a takeaway where I had to take action. What's the next thing that I need to do? The takeaway is the one thing that people always miss. You give the story, you have the feelings, I own it. What are you doing differently now? There has to be a different step that you take. And that's the part that I think kids always miss. And so my takeaway was, when something's out of my control or feels like it's out of my control, I gotta speak up. I have to ask for help. I have to say, hey, I'm late. And honestly, I don't know why. I don't know how to fix it. I've tried fixing it. And if those people don't want to help you, go find somebody who will, because at the end of the day, it was on me to fix. So pivot framework is one of those things I share with students all the time. And teachers love it because it changes the way they have conversations with students.
Agreed. I love that. I agree. Your T is the key. What are you going to take away? What are you going to do differently? So that's powerful stuff. With that, what's one truth you wish every young person, parent, or educator understood about leadership development and what taking ownership of your life truly means?
Yeah, it's ongoing. I think there's this assumption like, oh, I took a course, so I'm good now. Life continues to teach you. It doesn't stop. I'm learning lessons as of last week. I learned a lesson this morning. I've learned the same lesson 4 or 5 times. I'm not sure why I have to keep learning it, but.
Amen, girl. I had the same thing happen. Me too.
You keep learning it. But I think sometimes adults think that I said it once, I said it twice, I said it 3 times. That's enough. No, you're going to be coaching, teaching, parenting for life.
Yep. For
life. It does not end. You don't get to just relinquish power and be like, bye. You can withdraw. You can pull back for sure, but you're going to have to double back at some point. And that means it doesn't mean doing it for them. It means coaching them through it. And the coaching changes. Instead of telling them what to do, which is what you did when they were 5, now you ask them questions and you draw out the next step from them. You gotta pull things out of the kids as they get older. And ownership is something that, again, it evolves over time. It evolves over time. So it's not a checkbox thing. You can take a course and get a certificate. Great. Doesn't make you a leader. Your everyday actions do.
That is powerful stuff. Listen to what this lady just said and keep listening to it because life is going to keep happening. So that's so powerful. I'm going to turn it back over to Thomas.
Yeah.
Awesome, Britt. That's some powerful stuff. Right now, we're going to get into segment 3, advice across stages. You touched on it earlier, and I want you to dig a little bit deeper. If you could sit down with Britt, the high school #1 recruit, before you learned the lesson that came from losing the game, what advice would you give that version of Britt?
I'll be honest. I think I'm really proud of 17-year-old Britt.
Nice.
I think I am who I am because of what I did as a young kid. I mean that wholeheartedly. I became the #1 player and after playing basketball for 5 years. I didn't play basketball as a kid. I didn't do anything athletically as a kid. But when adults told me to do something, I listened.
Got it.
And I didn't always want to.
Right.
And I would vocalize that I didn't want to. I would do it anyway, but I would let them know I don't want to do this. But I'm really proud of how I moved as a 17-year-old. I did what people told me to do. And I separated myself from people who weren't on the same path. We had speakers come to our school. I had speakers come to camps that I went to, and you have all these adults telling you stuff. And it's the same message just coming across differently. And while I don't remember what everybody said, you hear something enough times, you got to make a decision at some point. Like, am I leading my life that way or am I leading it over here? And I was not perfect by any means. But I think the discipline that I had as a young kid, man, it's paid dividends because I got to learn, I got to experience firsthand what it means to put everything into something and get something back. To put all of my energy into going to the gym, being disciplined, playing against boys, playing against people older than me, not quitting, being a great sports, like having great sportsmanship, having great relationships as a student. Again, as I came back from that talk last week in Columbus, that talk was generated from my high school principal.
Wow.
Who now works in the district. But I hit up my coach and I said, Coach Lee, I'm being inducted into the Ohio Basketball Hall of Fame this summer, but I really want to go to some schools in the city. He made one phone call and it was to my former principal. That principal not only put it out there across different schools, but I got that gig and he came to my talk. And I'll be honest, I don't remember interacting with my principal, but I was who I was. I was humble. I was very nice. I was very respectful. And it's paid dividends. And so that's what I try to tell the kids. Like, you're not going to remember how you were acting in 9th grade. The adults will.
Right.
You're not going to remember. But if you plant those seeds now, when you need something, it's going to come back. It's going to be very hard for you to ask for stuff later. So you need to build yourself up for future you that you can't see right now.
Right.
And
right.
I'll be honest, I'm very proud of 17-year-old me. I didn't take anything too seriously, to a fault sometimes, but I didn't take myself too seriously. I didn't take basketball too seriously. I didn't take anything too seriously where I couldn't listen.
Right. Those are a lot of pearls in there. And I'm just thinking about, what would you say to people that are 14 to 24, navigating social media, college choices, career pressure? What do they need to understand about building authentic leadership and taking ownership of their adventure?
Yeah, it's hard. One, it's hard. So let's just acknowledge that. I think that's the first thing. I think this generation gets a lot of flack, but no other generation would be able to handle what this generation is dealing with. I know for a fact I would be in a blender if social media existed. I also just didn't care enough about, there were some things I just didn't care about because I didn't understand them. One, I didn't like being the model student. I hated it. I resented it.
Okay.
But that was the expectation. You can't do this because you're so-and-so. You have to be looking like this because you're so-and-so. I hated it. I did it anyway, but I didn't like it. I didn't like that kind of pressure and I didn't like that kind of attention. And social media would have just ratcheted that up. Brands wanting you to look and sound a certain way. I wouldn't have liked it. So I know that to be true. But it's hard. And again, at some point, you have to grow up. You have to make decisions. So one of the hardest things I think kids need to understand, especially as a young adult, is boundaries.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to make boundaries for you. All these schedules of your time that people are generating for you. I didn't control my AAU schedule. I didn't control my class schedule. I didn't control much, but I could control how I spent my time outside of those spaces.
Right.
And I had boundaries. There were kids in my high school that I was cool. I tell anybody, I was cool with everybody in my school, but I wasn't friends with everybody in my school.
Sure.
And there's some people who want to be friends with everybody. Boundaries. Everybody around you is not for you. Watch how people move. Watch how people talk to other people, whether you're there or not, and believe what you see. If you wouldn't want to be that person, you shouldn't be around that person. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
Boundaries with people, boundaries with your time, and boundaries with what you take in. When I was going through my depression in college, I didn't know it at the time, but my outlet was reading. So my teammates will tell you, they had no idea that I was upset, sad, depressed, anything. They would never know, but they did know I always had a book in my hands. Always.
That's remarkable.
Before
That's a constructive way of dealing with it, right?
It was a constructive way. I didn't know that I was doing it, but I had great foundational hobbies as a kid, and reading was one of them.
That's awesome.
And so it's just like, you got to have boundaries with what you take in. There's certain music I just don't want to hear because it doesn't really represent me. It doesn't make me feel good, even as a young woman. And I feel like I need to have this conversation more with young women. I'm 6'3" and I've been this height since I was 12. It takes you a long time to get comfortable in your body as a tall woman.
Right.
As a tall woman, it takes a while. And I feel like in my early 20s or even through college, there was an assumption being made about me that because I was attractive to them, that I felt that I was attractive, and thus I should be dressing a certain way.
Okay.
No, the message I'm gonna tell all these girls today is, listen, if you put on an outfit and you can't walk down the street with your hands by your side as if you're wearing sweats, don't wear it.
Perfect.
Your comfort is going to come when your comfort comes. If you're not comfortable in that, don't wear it, because you're bringing in a type of attention that you can't handle.
That's it.
And again, it's boundaries.
That is so key.
But kids have got to spend more time by themselves. Yeah.
Well, that's hard. I mean, wouldn't you say, Britt,
spend time by yourself?
Wouldn't you say that that's hard now with social media?
Go ahead, sorry.
I'm sorry. Wouldn't you say that's hard now with social media?
Yeah.
Just getting comfortable with yourself, because you feel like you have to compete with everybody around you. But the key there is boundaries. Know who you are. Feel comfortable in your skin. And what is that expression? When somebody shows you who they are, believe them. Right.
Believe them. Yeah.
100%.
You have to do that on your own. I got off of social media for 5 years, and I did that when I was in business school because I was reading case studies and I couldn't get through the case study without picking up my phone. This took me forever to get my work done. It took me forever, and I loved reading. But because I've been picking up this phone, like, I wasn't getting it done. But that takes self-awareness. And so I had to say, I got to get off, and I'm not announcing it.
Right.
I'm just off of it. And you know what else it did? It changed my relationships, because I was also only talking to my friends through social media, which is something else young people do.
Agreed.
That's not a conversation. That's that. And so me and my best friend were only talking through Instagram. And I didn't like that because I wasn't really catching up. I was commenting on stories and she was commenting back, but we're not on the phone talking. We're not FaceTiming.
Right.
So when I got off of social media for 5 years, it changed everything. I was more focused. I was more present. My anxiety was so low. Like, my angst was through the roof and I didn't know. Anxiety came down because I'm not worried about what if not. I'm worrying about what's in front of me right here. And worry is just not what's happening. I'm just not worried anymore. I'm dealing with what I have in front of me. And more importantly, the way I was communicating with people changed. I was one of few people, any of my friends would tell you, like, they're like, Britt, honestly, you're the only person in my entire contacts list that FaceTimes me.
Wow.
And I'm like, I don't know why. It's a feature. We should use it. And this is pre-pandemic. By the pandemic, everybody was on it. But before pandemic, they would say, you're the only person that FaceTimes me, and you're the only person I would answer a FaceTime from, because I know this is the only way I'll see you, because you're not on social media.
Wow.
And I would tell anybody, now, do you have the strength to get off of social media? You should, if you want to be exceptional. You have to be the exception. You have to do the things that other people aren't willing to do so you can get closer to you. This is not about everybody else. It's about you. And too many people are ruled by these imaginary thoughts and people. It's tragic. I'm back on social media, but the boundary is so much better.
That's awesome. What about young leaders who are trying to figure out who they are and what they stand for? What's the practical first step in owning your adventure?
There's so many steps.
Let's hear them.
I would say one of those things is say yes to opportunities.
Okay.
Say yes to things that make you uncomfortable. If somebody says you should try out for varsity, try out. They see something in you that you don't see in yourself. If you're a young adult and you get a job opportunity, it's in Iowa, and you're from New York City and you're like, I don't want to do that. Wrong choice. Go to Iowa. do things that make you uncomfortable.
Sure.
And I like to tell even my peers, I try to do something hard every 18 months. Whether it's run a marathon, which I've done, get yoga teacher certified, which I've done, quit my job, which I've done, start a business, which I've done, become a pastry chef, which I will do. Do something hard every 18 months because you're the only person that can go through that.
Right.
And you're going to figure out who you are through that experience. But so long as you allow other people's opinions and mindsets and ideas, and you allow yourself to fall into groupthink, you can't become a leader because you're constantly doing what everyone else is doing. And I think the fastest way to figure out who you are is to take risks for yourself and walk through those risks.
Why 18 months? Why not a year?
You need some time. You need some time. You need some time, man. 18 months probably really isn't enough time. You know, people want change quickly. It takes a long time to get good at something.
Yeah.
And I think if you did a year, the overly competitive people would try to execute on it.
Got it.
And that's like, don't do that. Give yourself the space and time. Also, you may fall off of your journey, right? I always tell people, I used to have this mindset about reading books, which was I have to finish the book. And it wasn't until someone said, you don't have to finish books that I went, huh? Really?
Interesting.
And they were like, yeah, no, you don't have to finish books. If you don't like the book, put the book down. Be done with it. And it never occurred to me that that was an option. And that's a problem high achievers have.
Right.
That's their problem, right? And that was my problem. You don't even know you have a problem because high achievers are successful. There's two ends of that stick always.
Right.
Right. And you can overdo it. And you have to be open with yourself and honest and say, life happens and I'm going to have this plan and it may get derailed. But how are you going to respond? The plan being derailed is part of the plan, actually. Sometimes that's part of the plan.
Yeah.
Okay, now what? That's who you are. After the now what is who you are. You don't get caught up in, oh, I didn't finish. What are people going to say? Again, you worry about people.
Right.
What are you going to do about it? Yep. If you want to do nothing, but sit with that and own it. But if you want to do something, bite the bullet and do something. But it's on you to do that.
100%. Do you remember the first time you didn't finish a book? Because when you said that, I was sitting here smiling, thinking about a book. I'm like, you know what? I got to finish it. I started it. You always have to finish what you started. But then after about 2 or 3 more chapters, I was just like, I'm out. I just can't get into this.
Yeah. There's this book called The Dresses.
You're going to put it on blast. Okay.
Listen, it's like a must read or something in some grades now. Maybe it's not. I didn't really. The problem was the context was too far above my head.
Got it.
And I was forcing it. And so, but it left a bad taste in my mouth. So I never finished it. But then I realized when I became a teacher, I saw that it was on the 3rd grade reading list, or maybe it was 5th grade reading list. And I was like, that makes sense. Cause I was trying to read it at 7.
Bingo. Yep. We're going to turn it back over to Aaron, which is the rapid fire round segment 4. Aaron, take it away.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to start the sentence and you're just going to finish it, okay?
Ooh, okay.
Okay, discipline equals
freedom.
Leadership equals
knowing yourself.
Good. Legacy equals
pouring into others.
Faith equals
consistency.
What's one thing you would never compromise on?
My integrity.
And if you could have a message put on a billboard for the young athletes and people today, what would that be?
In order to be exceptional, you must be the exception.
Ooh, that's so good. Okay, Thomas, it's back to you.
Before we close out,
you're muted. Okay, so before we close out, Britt, is there anything you would like to share with our audience that you have not shared with us at this point?
Yeah, I'd love to work with your students, right? I work best with students in their school setting, after school care programs, whatever programming you have. I've worked in high schools, I've worked in colleges, I've worked at major corporations, like I said, like Microsoft and the like. And I love working with kids in groups because I will always say there is more knowledge in the room than there is in my head. And I want to empower kids to learn from one another. That's where the learning takes place. Adults can talk at you, but your peers will talk with you. And it's best that I come to an institution where there's multiple children all at one time, because I want them to learn from each other's setbacks, from each other's successes. That's how I learned. And I'm really hoping to get into more schools this year. I've been primarily on the East Coast and in the South, would love to get to the West Coast, to the Midwest, go back to Midwest. You can find me, my website, Britt Hunter at BeTheExceptionCoaching.com. And also, anytime I come to a school, all the students get a workbook. It's a choose your own adventure style workbook because it emphasizes the mantra of my life, which is, you're going to be faced with choices and decisions. And those choices and decisions that you make or don't make are going to determine where you end up. And so I allow the reader to jump around the book and make decisions about what they think I would do or would have done. And there's worksheets. You can doodle on it. You can color in it. It's a beautiful cover. So would love to just, make my way to different sports teams, schools. And just to be clear, I know we're talking about sports, but I despise when people tell me to come talk to just the football team at any university. I'm sorry, but the people in the C-suite are usually the lacrosse players and the golfers and the soccer players, the hockey players. Like, I'm here for everybody. And I want to make sure I'm touching all of the students, not just the revenue generating sports, NIL. It's beyond that. It's bigger than that for me.
Awesome. We had a little technical difficulty. And the final two questions, Britt. Let's take us back to 22-year-old Britt. You're super healthy. You're on the court, and you're going to build an all-star team around you. Who are the other 4 female players that you would build around your all-star team?
Wow, that's a huge question. I wasn't prepared for it. It's so crazy. There's people I'm not going to name, but there were a lot of WNBA players that I watched when I was in high school that I absolutely loved and wanted to be just like. And I'm not going to name any of those people because their names are escaping me, but just know that the WNBA players from the late 90s were some hoopers.
100%.
They're not built like this anymore. Everybody's floating around and shooting threes. These girls were banging. And so respect to anybody who played college or the WNBA in the 90s, man. It was tough. That toughness is real. Let's see. Are these basketball players or just people in life?
Anybody that you want. This is your all-star list, top 5.
Oh boy, top 5. I'm going to put Allison Bales on there. She might be shocked by that. She was the other freshman at Duke University when I was there. She was also my rival in high school. Allison Bales was one of the few people to call my out. She's one of the few people to bring me to the mat. So I absolutely love her. Let's see. I'm going to put my friend Kylie McLaren on there. Kylie, she coaches at Vanderbilt now. Kylie's a people, man. She's the off the court person. She's going to get to know every single person on the team. She's an empath, but she's finding her voice now where she's speaking up and telling people to do the right thing. So you need an empath on your team. I'm also going to put Barbara Turner on there. Barbara Turner scared the crap out of me when I was in high school. She was my first AAU teammate, and she didn't take no stuff. And she didn't like me at first because I was bad at basketball, and she only respected people that were good. And I gained her respect. I earned her respect by working on my game and getting better, and finally was able to catch her passes. But Barb does not play, and I respect anybody who holds the line on who they like and affiliate with based on how hard you work. I respect that. She doesn't care about how popular you are. She cares about how hard you work and how you show up. And that's how she is as a coach. She coaches for the Mystics now. And everybody wants her on their team because she doesn't care. She don't care about who you are. She expects the best. Those are 3. I guess I got to pick 2 more people. Gosh. This is hard. I'm being a
It could be
super.
business. It could be business or a teacher.
Oh, business? Okay. Listen, I'm putting my fourth grade teacher on there. My fourth and fifth grade teacher, Senora Rodriguez Munoz. I went to a Spanish immersion school and we learned everything in Spanish. And this lady, if I was a teacher, I was probably her. I probably emulated her the most. She had a high bar, but she made everything so fun. She just had a high standard for you couldn't just answer a question. You really had to answer the question. And if you didn't answer it, she's not taking it. She's like, no, that's not it. But she was herself. And I loved that about her. And then that's the kind of teacher that I was. And then finally, I'm going to put my coach on there, Coach Lee. Coach Lee and I just did a podcast. He's my high school coach. He was inducted into the Ohio Basketball Hall of Fame. I'm now going to be inducted into the Ohio Basketball Hall of Fame. But Coach Lee was one of the adults around me that didn't allow me to suck. He no days off, and when you coach at a public high school and the girls can be, iffy, wishy-washy, may come to practice, may not. His bar was so high, everybody came.
That's awesome.
And he wasn't afraid to kick you off the team. And I respected that about him. And there's a reason he's inducted into the Hall of Fame. He's not about being your friend. He's about making you a better adult.
That's badass. That is awesome. I know you mentioned it earlier. Final question. Where can people connect with you, whether it's a website, email, social media? Where can they get a hold of you?
Yeah. So you can email me. I know I said the website was Britt Hunter. It's not. My email is Britt Hunter, BRITT Hunter, HUNTER @BeTheException.com. And that is also my website, www.BeTheExceptionCoaching.com. And you can find me on LinkedIn with my name, Britt Hunter. You can also find me on Instagram at CoachBHunt_. And I'm dropping some videos on there. Right now I'm doing a bunch of speaking. So you're probably only going to see clips of me speaking or places I'm going to speak. But yeah, those are all the places you can find me.
That's awesome. Britt Hunter, thank you for showing us what it means to own your own adventure and help others do the same. Team, if this conversation hits you, do two things for us. One, share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. A young person trying to figure out who they are, an educator working with students, a parent helping their child build authentic leadership skills, and two, connect with Britt at BeTheExceptionCoaching.com and check out Own Your Own Adventure. If you're working with young people and you're a young leader yourself, Britt's approach to building confidence, character, and leadership skills go do exactly what you need. And if you're an athlete, parent, or coach raising the standard, check us out at blueprintbluechip.com. Team, if this episode resonated with you, do us a favor, do us a solid, leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It helps us reach more athletes, parents, and leaders who need to hear this message. This is the Standard Podcast, and this movement only grows when we raise the standard together. Talent fades, but truth endures. Let's raise the bar, rebuild the culture, and become the standard. Britt, Aaron, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time, team.
Thanks.